So, y'all know I love to tell people that something is another name for God. Something told me to come in here and start this computer when I sat down to do my meditation, but I didn't do it. I didn't do it. So, I have been sitting here because when I came in first, I jiggled my stuff like I normally do, jiggled the mouse, and it came up, but it said it couldn't find the internet connection. So I go in there, turn on and turn off my internet thing, and I come back, still couldn't find the internet connection. So then I had to reboot, and that. Ugh, I should have just rebooted in the first place instead of trying to wait to see if it was going to find the internet connection. However, I will tell you, I cleared off some of this stuff on my desk and managed to get a little bit of order on my desk. And that is a major thing. Good morning to you, Erica and Ruth. Blessings to you both. You're in New Jersey. You know what, Ruth? I wanted to. I'm thinking about an audio book, and I was just going to touch bases with Lynette. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I was just trying to find out about process. So I'm glad to hear you're probably there with her. So I hope y'all had a great, fabulous weekend. I had do I want to say a quiet, laid back weekend? It was good. I am decluttering my life. I'm gonna put it that way. I am decluttering my life, and I am feeling good, and I'm feeling good. Do. Y'all know how that goes. Anyway, just a lot of introspection and thinking about what it is that I'm doing, what projects I've got going on. All of that stuff is just interesting to me. I was honored to be asked by Carol to say something on behalf of her mother this coming Saturday at the funeral. And so on Saturday, this is going to be a short, I'll have a short session on Saturday so I can bounce out the door and get there on time. I'm gonna tell y'all that, there is some funny stuff that happens with me, and time is on my side. Yes, it is. So there's a funny thing that happens with me and time, and I am appreciative of the lessons that I've learned about time. And I choose to sit in it, to not be dictated by it, but rather to sit and rest in it easily. And as I find that I do that, I give up it seems like there's a resistance, sometimes when this may sound really weird, but sometimes I think that there is, I know how to describe it. Back when I was in college, there was Dr. Ducharme. Dr. Ducharme used to teach a philosophy class that, and I, just like I am here, I'm in every space. I will say that I have this thing that at first, and I tell you guys this often, when I felt very insecure about my level of intelligence, I would sit back and not say a word. I would sit back and wonder why other people weren't having the same thoughts that I was having. And what I realized is it's not for somebody else, it is for me. It's like, the ball falls on me. And so I have to come in every situation. Once I stopped feeling insecure about it, I started showing up, right? And so showing up for me means speaking according to how I see things. Now, some people will appreciate that and others will not, especially in locations or in situations where people don't like or don't want change, or they don't want anybody outpacing. So you'll be in certain arenas where people will shut you down. Now, if you feel as if you are running a bit faster than everybody else, this guy told me one time, I forget what his name is, came over to my house and he was, here and he's kind of looking through pictures. And he said to me one time, he says, if you're the most attractive person in your group, you're in the wrong group. And I was like, whoa, really? Like, he says, yeah, he says, you need to be in places that challenge you all the time. So when I am in a group and they are busy trying to tell me that I need to stay down and shut up, I know that it's time for me to leave. Well, in Dr. Ducharme's class, Dr. Ducharme used to lecture, which is what philosophy majors do. They lecture for a period of time. But then when you say something that is contrary to the way that they think about something, then it seems like everybody else in the class wants to pounce on you. And what I have been through, the experiences that I have had, is not one that makes me feel as if I need to cower in the face of opposition. I can remember getting opposition way back. Dr. Ducharme, I remember him talking about that animals and souls and plants, even though they were living, didn't have a soul and didn't feel anything. And I was like, no, that's some bull stuff. I beg to differ. And he started talking about how, utterly stupid he thought dogs were or animals were. And I was like, dude, what planet have you dropped from? We used to have these big, I don't want to call them knockdown drag out arguments, but I always felt like, good morning, Mike, how are you today? Be intentionally you. Yes, I used to get this thing where I was the only Black person at the time that was in the philosophy department. Now, there was two guys, I forget what one of them's name was, but there was two other guys that I eventually met that were in the department, but we never took classes together. I think Kurt Munson and somebody else. I can't think of what the other guy's name is. Very attractive artist guy. But the only other two Blacks in there. And so, a lot of times I would go into the classes and people would look at me as if I had three heads, especially if I dared to give some pushback on a particular subject. And so I remember when he started talking about how animals didn't have a soul, it's like all the, because there was an ethics class that many people had to take regardless of what their major was. And so in this particular ethics class, it's like there was some things, don't get me wrong, he did study at the Sorbonne, right? There were some things that I got with from Dr. Ducharme that I thought, and I still use today. But when we started talking about this idea of souls being in anything other than humans, it's like the whole class, the whole 40 other students in this class turned their energy on me, and it's like sitting there like glaring at me as if I needed to get with the program. Well, I wasn't going to get with the program, right? Because what I knew was what I knew. And so I wasn't going to change up just because all of a sudden y'all don't understand, or you have never been in close proximity to some animals where you could determine whether or not you thought there was something deeper than just a carcass there. So so what I knew is that one of the things that he talked about at one time was is that we move through this environment that we are in. We move through the world and we act as if there is nothing but empty space between you and I, or between me and this camera or whatever. He says we see empty space. He says, but it's kind of like a fish that would swim through water, doesn't see the water, it just sees the next solid thing that, according to how they see, the next solid thing that appears. And so that's why they swim into the glass, because even the glass and the water they are not seeing, but they see one another. And so when I think about how we move through the world, we move through the world in much the same way. Many of us don't have a perception that there is anything out here but empty space. But one of the things that I know is that just because, like, say, for instance, most people don't believe in anything that they cannot see, anything that is not a noun or a solid thing, things that you could taste, touch, smell, and hear. People don't believe in that. So they act as if there is nothing else. But what I have come to find out is that there is absolutely something else out here. And so because I don't allow those who can't get into that imaginal realm to dictate how I move through the world. If I move through but what's funny is that what just came to mind is that movie As Good as It Gets with what's that guy's name? Is Hunt. The woman's name is Hunt, and his name is but whatever his name is. But in that movie, As Good as It Gets, he was, he would move through the world, moving and not stepping on cracks and moving around, because there was things that he was aware of that other people may not be. And so he modified himself so that he could avoid, say, for instance, step on the crack, break your mama's back kind of thing. He walked through the world or moved through the world by something different that he was hearing. And so the same with me. I move through the world as if I see it differently. That doesn't mean that I need to change what I'm looking at. And a lot of times what we do is we begin to feel so insecure about who we are and how we see the world that we allow others to dictate how we show up. You guys, stop it. Good morning, Denise. How are you, dear? We allow others to modify our behavior. And so, yes, and even when it is, even in the moments when it's rough, when you've got 40 other people looking at you as if to say, no, this is not right. You can stand in and sit in your awareness and say, well, just because you don't perceive it does not mean that I don't, or that I'm going to relinquish my position because yours is different from mine. So I find that a lot of times when we are in proximity to people, we have a tendency to try to downgrade or dumb down. And at a certain point, we have to realize that, just like my friend said, if you're the smartest person in your group, or you even have the perception that you are, it may not be true. If you think that you are the most attractive person in your group, it and this is self-identified, as Dr. Brown would say. This is self-identified. If you find that that is the case for you, then consider that you might be in the wrong group. Consider finding another group, or creating something, but upgrade is required, right? And so, I'm on that stick. Let me be let me be aware of what I'm doing, of what I'm bringing to the table, and don't let other people throw you off your game just because they don't get it. When I was a kid, there was and I'm going to work out of this book a little bit today, because I just think it's I haven't. But when I was a kid, there was my siblings, along with I want to tell you what their names were. I guess it doesn't matter what their names were. But my siblings, we were over visiting. My parents used to have friends. Of course, like everybody. Hopefully everybody has friends. So we were over some friend's house, and my siblings decided to play this trick on me, where everybody said that they couldn't hear me. And it was, no matter how loud I talked, and the fact that I was screaming, they were sitting up there and they was looking at me, and I'm a kid, right? They were looking at me, and they were looking at each other like, I see her mouth moving, but there's nothing coming out. What? Can you hear anything? They were doing like that on me. Like, yeah, I can't hear anything. Look, Sand looks like she's talking, and nothing is coming out. You think so? And I could hear myself, but they couldn't hear me. And so as a kid, I kept screaming louder and louder. And then I started getting distressed. And then I started crying, because now my siblings were acting like my siblings and these other and this other family, the kids in that family, they kept acting like they could not hear me. And so I was just in total distress. And so I go into, and so we were at their house. And so I go running into their house. My mother and everybody they're having a conversation, and I bust into the room crying, snot running. And my mother looks at me like, Sandy, what is wrong with you? And I was like, can you hear me? I'm screaming to the top of my lungs. And then she was like, yeah, shut your mouth, girl. What is wrong with you? And I was like, nobody can hear me. I hear you fine. I was like, well, they can hear me. And and so her thing was, girl, if you don't get out of here, I'm gonna give you something to be crying about, And I remember I was so like outdone, because there was a part of me that believed what they were telling me, that the problem that I was having with communicating was one that was mine, instead of like agreeing with them and their summation of me. And so that would be the original gaslighting, right? For me, the experience of being gaslighted. And so, for each and every one of us, we have to recognize those moments when we are gaslighted, gaslit, however you say it. But we go into places and spaces all the time where people are treating us just that way. And then we have to be aware that, sometimes there's an agenda to it. Sometimes the agenda is to get you to shut up. Sometimes the agenda is based on their own fear, and not on anything in reality. Um, Mike says, I do have an opinion regarding animals and all, but I deem that one-on-one discussion. Okay, you deem that a one-on-one discussion. Okay, maybe we'll have that discussion. Mike, I can, not today, but I can invite you on at some point and we can have that discussion if you so choose. I, you know, and I would ask you if you have any animals, if you are surrounded by animals, if you, what your level of engagement with animals are before before that conversation can take off. Because one of the things that we can theorize about a lot of times is if we haven't had some level of close-up contact, then that can skew us. Because I sit here with my dogs. I sit here having, and I'm not although I have that book Animal Speaks on my shelf and believe that it is a amazing animal Bible for me. Yeah, I just think that if we have not had real interactions with it, the conversation will be having two different conversations. So, okay. Yeah, tell me a day that you want to have that animal conversation. I'm gonna put this down. Animals and Souls with Mike. And yeah. And I will tell you, and the other party is I'll say that those of us or y'all that eat a lot of animal flesh will also have a different perspective on that too. I wonder where some of you know some of that it comes from. So yeah, that's cool. We can have that discussion. Just inbox me and we'll set up a time. We'll set up a time for that. Yeah. So I got no issues with having conversations around things that I hold as true. I would be honored to. It's not what you think, but there is a deeper level of thought and discussion. Also, I may have a copy of your book, or let me know where I can get one. So it will be soon, like I'll say within the next 6 months, but I will definitely keep you posted. Yes. I'm trying to do my editing right now. So yes. So anyway, so when we talk about this from the perspective of how we move in the world, yeah, one of the things that yesterday I watched, on Sunday mornings, I like to watch while I'm cooking breakfast. I watch Joel Osteen, and then I also watch Sunday morning. Now I'm not eating that entire time. It's just, kind of what I do. And then that comes after I've done my meditation and my devotional in the morning. Then I stop, watch Joel Osteen and Sunday morning, and then I get back into my my zone. Yesterday, Gwyneth Paltrow was on Sunday morning, and Gwyneth Paltrow has a company called Goop. Now, I have watched her specials on Netflix and found them absolutely fascinating, because one of the things that she tries to do, and which is one of the things that most people don't know, is she's bringing Eastern medicine and Eastern traditions into America. And because it is new here, people make it seem as if it's hokey or woo woo, instead of thinking, oh, you mean to tell me that other countries do this? Like, really deal with the energetic body instead of just the physical body. She was one of the first that introduced me to this. Well, no, I read that book called Pussy by Regina Thomas Hauser. And then I saw Gwyneth Paltrow's thing where she introduced Betty Dodson, who was also a sex therapist, that talked about this, that our bodies have an intelligence all their own. And so, she's introduced a lot of things, even this idea of why people that are in the Netherlands, so to speak, believe in swimming in frigid, freezing water, the reasons why they dive in and swim, and how once you learn how to use and move your energy, that you can stand outside in the cold, in the winter, and create your own heat. So there are all these modalities that are not new, but newly introduced through this company that she has called Goop. And so one of the things that she said is that in the, when she first started out, people were like clowning her as if to say, what the heck are you doing? Right? Basically trying to say, and she says, what we do in this country is we disregard things that we cannot see or are not measurable. And so when you can't see them and you can't measure them, people will try to tell you that they don't exist. People will try to quiet you or hush you, or, tell you that if it doesn't say it in the Bible, or if it doesn't prove it here, then it cannot be real. When the whole idea of what spirituality is about is not about whether or not you can quote a scripture. I mean, that's we lose sight of the relationship and the faith that is required in order to really engage with what God is. And so if we're always trying to prove it through like sitting there with a magnifying glass and reading and defining every single word, if we think that that is the only way for us to have an experience of God, then we're not having one. Oh, so for me, it is recognizing that everybody is not playing out of the same deck of cards, because some people are looking at the space in between, and some people are only looking at what they can see. And that's two different perspectives. That doesn't say that I'm right and somebody else is wrong. It's just different. And so at some point, he who has an ear will hear, he who has eyes will see. At some point, hopefully we'll get it. But until then, that's how we're swimming. And so, I don't try to throw shade on anybody, but what I do is I want to identify and say, oh, that's not my group. If that's not my group anymore, if that's not how I want to if I want to stop identifying with people who either, can't hear, la, 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 they won't hear. If I want to stop that, then I maybe need to go and find someplace. There are certain people that are curious about things. They just had a whole seminar. I didn't attend because I wasn't necessarily planning on doing it, but they had a whole seminar on how psychedelics and magic mushrooms and all of these things can enhance therapy. Now, or allow you the ability to see beyond what is tangible. And so since I didn't necessarily see myself as going through that type of stuff, not because I've got anything against it, but it's because I know that it's not something that's practiced here in Ohio. I got to go to someplace else and do all of these other things. And I didn't see that necessarily, but that's not because I reject it. It's just not right now. Tracy, good morning, beautiful. There are some really good Goop episodes. Betty is the queen of sex therapy and mirror work. Yes. She did Goop and then she did Goop Lab, I do believe. And I thought both of those Netflix specials or mini series was really wonderful. But it requires that we open our minds, and sometimes, sometimes even in opening our minds to different possibilities, there will be people that will still believe you to be hokey and don't have time for that. There are people who you can talk to that are not passionate about anything, right? And it's amazing to me. They don't have they don't, people kind of like look at me like, how do you always come in here and have stuff to talk about? And it's like, because the world and life fascinates me. All of this stuff fascinates me. I don't need to, while I may watch the Browns and watch the Guardians and, and even the weather, I may watch it, but it's like, that is not fascinating to me. Life is. I mean, people are. I am. God is. I mean, insects, animals, life just in general. All of this stuff is like, I see the surface part, but let's go deeper than that, right? Let's look at it differently. How can we allow, just breathe into a space? That guy who wrote the Science of Mind daily guides this time around, his name is Jeffan Seeley. And in there, he asked this question he was talking about the other day. He said that he went to somebody to help him, like a coach, to help him because he felt like he wasn't achieving what he wanted, what he desired. And he said that the coach asked him a question, and he asked him, he says, I want you to really think on why you're sabotaging your own life, why you're sabotaging your own success. And he says, I had to sit with that. He says, it's not one of those things that you can give an instant answer to, because the first thing, this is not his conversation, but this is for me. The first thing that comes up for us is I'm not sabotaging myself, but sometimes we got to sit with ideas, breathe into ideas. What is it? When I was at Vippasana and we were doing these 10-day meditations, and we'd sit there and they talked about this scanning our bodies and all this stuff. And these are, these people are Indian, from India, Indian people. And they are meditators. They come from, this is Eastern religion again. They come from out of a different thing. And they said, pay attention to scanning your body. Now, we spent a full 2 days, 2 days breathing. And what the goal is that you sit in meditation and breathe until you could feel the hairs on the top of your lip move as you breathe. So we had to bring our attention and our awareness into one spot. It's like in the Kung Fu movie that says, until you can take the pebble from my hand, you cannot leave, right? And so he would go in there every single day. And here you have a blind man that could close his hand before you even move to pick it out, right? And so you're wondering, how is it that even before I do, that I'm about to take that pebble or go for the pebble? You can get up close on it and you're sitting up there and still he couldn't grasp it. So what is it that he is perceiving that I am not? That there is an energy, there is a dynamic at work. I watched this stupid movie yesterday. Let me see if I could tell. Oh, Morbius. And in Morbius, this guy made some kind of concoction to give him bat senses, or to give him the thing of a bat, which meant that his sonar was so active that he could pinpoint these spaces in time. If you can imagine that our mind has the same ability, that even before you think about grasping that pebble, I already know what you're about to do. We have those same abilities. And so in Vippasana, we had to bring our full attention to that one pinpoint and sit there and breathe until we could feel the hairs move as we breathe. Feel the difference in the temperature in the air as we sucked in and sucked out. This was the exercise. And so when you think about, all of the things that we kind of skirt over and don't pay any attention to, there are other people that are really recognizing that we are not just dealing with the physicalness, but there is an intangible substance to the universe that we are also dealing with. And so this idea of paying attention to why you're sabotaging yourself means that we have to move beyond just, oh, I'm moving my body, I'm showing up, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. That there is something else in back of that informs the reasons why we do what we do. I want to shift, because sometimes I want to shift. I want to do a couple of these, because here I am 10 minutes before I'm supposed to be off of here, and I haven't touched this book. This book here is the one that I am attempting to bring some closure to. I've got a couple of other books in the work that I am in the process of reading, dissecting, trying to decide what's next, or if I'm going to flip back to the front of this book and move through it a little bit, because there are some things that I skirted over. I don't want to say I skirted over. I really got into it, but that are for my own awareness, I guess you could say. I don't know exactly, but you'll know when I know. So y'all, how do we be more aware, right? That is, some of y'all don't want to be, right? Some of y'all don't want to be woke, right? You don't want to be woke to anything. And this is not just politically woke. This is spiritually woke. This is you woke, right? Here, oh, let me tell y'all what I was trying to tell you in there. So in Vippasana, they were talking about this thing about scanning our bodies. We had to scan, and we had to know how, just being aware of. And so you start at the top of your head and you scan your full body. And they would say scan everywhere. And then it said pay most attention to the places where you avoid scanning. So if you are not scanning in your pelvic region, in your seated spaces, if you are not scanning your butt, ask yourself, If not, why not? What parts of you are unacceptable to you? What parts of you have you deemed or rendered mute that they cannot speak to you? What parts of yourself are you denying? Do you throw away? Is it your tummy? Is it your sex organs? And I'm saying that to be, to talk about both parts. Is it, some part that you have with your hips or your butt or your thighs or your feet, or what parts of you have you rejected, right? And if you have rejected, if you've got parts of you that you have rejected, the question is why, right? Why? So is it because somehow you've rendered it unworthy or dirty, or you've been told not to? Somebody slapped your little hands when you were a kid, telling you not to go there. I mean, there is this investigation, this questioning behind the why. I was just asking a girlfriend of mine yesterday, who is, has COVID. And she is still pushing, still trying to push through it instead of just allowing herself to go through it. She wants to be at work and do this, that, and the other. And it's like, what part of you just cannot let this process go through? And the question becomes, why can't we give ourselves permission? I mean, there are so many, to me, because I'm curious about these things. There are so many questions to ask as it relates to how we move and how we see things, how we show up for ourselves or not. And if not, why not? Where did we get that from? What part of us believes that our whole value in who we are is predicated upon how much we make or where we live, or who our friends are? I still, it's interesting because in 2022 I still run into people who are name droppers, and it's like I just sit there thinking, like, what is that? Do you need something to bolster who you are? Are you, what is that about? And so sometimes it is this thing of asking ourselves questions. Question yourself, question, what you think about. If I mean, why not what do you have to fear by really just being curious about what it is that motivates you, what it is that you think about. Is the big bad boogeyman going to get you still, or is it God that you think is going to get you? What is it? I keep telling people, I keep saying that we've got to grow our even our perceptions about what it means to be spiritual. We gotta go to the edge, right? I said that yesterday. Anyway, so I'm gonna just so in this book, we have been dealing with, or we were dealing with, I haven't been in the book, I think, in a whole week. It didn't start with you. We talked about how our ancestors and epigenetics and all of this stuff impacts our own success. A lot of times we have things that block us, and it can be even just our own minds and how we interpret things. We don't want to outdo or leave anybody behind. So say, for instance, if I saw my ancestors living in a 3-room shack and no doors on the house, and I got in my mind that they are in my energy field. Why? There's a part that that says, if it was, to ask yourself how you continue to be informed by that. Are you a person that is saying this is good enough? Or are you recognizing that just because they felt unseen, unheard, like they did not register in the scheme of things. When you think about this country, where is place? And is that place even one that is registered or known, or that has a vibration that goes out into the universe? This is a question, I suppose, that we can all ask ourselves vibrationally. What is the impact that I'm having on the planet? And so if it is a goal for you, then if not, why not? If it's not a goal for you, to have an impact on the planet, that's cool. What is your desire? What is the desire that you have for your life, right? Is it an impact? Is it to merely exist? Is it to exist and make some money so you can live a plush life and then you die? Is it, I mean, what's the impact, right? Is it to influence people, or is it to is it just to making the way in the world today? Takes everything you got, right? I don't know. What is it for you? And so sometimes, that's the way the song goes. Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name, right? Sometimes you want to be in that pocket of philia, I think it is, the love that is shared among friends, things like that. So if that is the case, then that's cool. There is no shade on that. But the question becomes, what is it? Are you just here to live until you die? What's the impact? So when we think about these questions, if you have some other desire for your life, then asking the question shakes something loose. If you don't have anything that would that you are, hey Shirley, how you doing? If you don't have anything that you are aiming towards, right? If you don't have anything, sometimes we've got to ask ourselves, if not, why not, right? Is there something else that is there that is like a wet blanket that is holding us down? Is it because nobody in my family has ever done this? Or is it because I might outdo somebody else? Is it somebody else is pulling on you? There's so many questions that you can ask yourself when it comes to your suppression of yourself and your own being. Just like I talked about earlier, is it because the people that you run with or identify with are still just in the same spot? What is the question, right? I remember one time looking out, and I it's 9 o'clock. I heard the little thing go off telling me it's time to shut your mouth, right? One time I was standing and looking out at the city in this window. And one of the things that I perceived, and I don't know where this came from, all I know is that it came to me so clear that where I was, it seemed like it was a vortex, like a negative energy field that was sucking things in with it. And I remember as I saw that and I looked, I was thinking to myself, like, yeah, I need to get out of here. There is, even in the Bible, it says that a prophet won't be accepted in their own hometown. There is this, like, salmon swim against stream to go and lay their eggs. I have seen, there's a lot of times where we see that in order for life to continue or to do what it's supposed to do, sometimes the journey is the journey to break that field of inertia that keeps you stuck where you are. we have to figure out, sometimes you don't even have to figure out the inertial feel, because once you get out of it, hindsight is 2020. You can look back and say, whoo, I broke free from that. If that's the case, because I can look at that and say, "Ooh, I've been stuck in inertia." And if you don't know what inertia is, yeah, you could check it out. INERTIA, I think it's spelled. But sometimes we have got to break out. We've got to break free of of that, right? Because things will atrophy, however you say it. Things will, muscles that you don't use will become tight and stiff, and you gotta somehow wiggle them around in order to get them to move right, right? We gotta break free of the things that hold us back. So when it asks these questions, like if you feel like you've cheated someone or someone cheated you, did anyone in your family go bankrupt, lose the family wealth, or cause the family to experience financial difficulties? These are questions that we can ask on one level, but on another level, we can also look at the experience that has happened to us in our community. And so that becomes part of the work to do. How do we break free of the inertia? How do we break free of that? So there we go. That was all over the page, and it's all good. It's all good. All right. So just stuff to think about. Think about. And yeah, so we can what is that? I just heard Rick James's song. It's funny how spirit deals with me. I just heard Rick James's song, and it says, I'm breaking out, busting out. We're busting out. La, 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 busting out that's the song. Anyway, spirit, just thank you, God. Thank you, God, for this. All right. So I thank you for being here, y'all. Blessings to you. Don't forget, you can always drop some change in my Cash App or Zoom, or not the Zoom, but or PayPal. Everything is Sandra said it. I thank you for being here. Mike, that was Mike, right? Yeah, we'll talk about the when inbox me when you want to have that conversation about animals and souls and all of that stuff. Anyway, I appreciate y'all. Thank you for being here, and thank you. If you got something out of this, drop some change or share this video. I thank you, Ruth, for inviting folks. That looked like, I don't really see who's watching me because I do this on my computer and it doesn't show me, but I can see you when you make a comment or something. So Shirley, namaste to you. Thank you guys for being here. And I will be back again tomorrow. Hopefully I'll be here 7:50-ish instead of after 8 like I did today, because I was having those connectivity issues. So blessings. Have an amazing day. And yeah. I love ya. All right. See ya. And I'm out.